I would have never closed because they can fuck right off. They're not the boss of me. I mean, knives are cool. I mean, guns are cool, but you get in trouble with guns everywhere. But knives, you don't get in trouble that much. There's not too many rules about them.
Okay. So first of all, Greg, thank you very much for the opportunity to conduct with you this interview. I'm sure that this video will be very interesting, not only for Russian audience and Russian knife enthusiasts, but it will be interesting worldwide to all knife enthusiasts, because I think you're one of the very important pillars, actually, I would say, in knife industry, in modern knife industry. So if you, so we basically will do both versions, English and Russian. So we will basically translate also our interview in Russian language, and we will have both videos. And of course, if you want, we can share with you the video in English without any problem. Okay. So I will start maybe with some general questions, and then I will move to some specific ones. And I want to start actually, of course, with the whole situation where we are right now. The whole world is due to COVID-19. So how is situation in the United States, in Arizona, and in Phoenix particularly?
Well, okay, so, you know, I'm sure most places are the same way. No matter what kind of government you have, no matter what kind of economy you have people on one side and people on the other, being kind of two sides of tribal. The United States, we have your freedom group and we have your safety group. Safety are your Democrats and freedom are your Republicans. And then you've got normal people stuck in the middle. But you got to kind of pick a camp. The Republican states, there's 26 states that are Republican, I believe, right now. They're a little more freedom oriented, so they've been a little skeptical of the WHO. They're skeptical of the international cooperation with China. They're skeptical with a lot of things. They're very freedom and national oriented. So those 26 states, you know, we kind of, as adults, they said initially maybe 2 to 3 million people could die from this. And we all said, okay, what's your plan? And they said, well, we're going to shut the country down. And we all said, okay, well, we'll give you a month. And then we got to the end of the month. And what happened is it started as the data started to come in, and it doesn't look as bad, and everyone panicked. What we found is the Democrat mayors and the Democrat governors panicked. The Republican mayors and the Republican governors didn't. So it's turned into a politic thing, which tells me it's not real. A real thing, you know, like, for instance, Nazis. There was no politics on Nazis. Once we decided, here we go, oh, got it. No, that's bad. We all agree. We got it. But if we can't agree on the COVID, that's just politics. So basically, the Democrats, it's their way to try and take down the president, all for safety. Anytime the government says it's for your safety, I start getting fucking worried. Like, I'll worry about my safety. You make sure nobody invades my country. You let me worry about safety.
Okay.
So that's kind of what's going on. So the people like me in the United States, and there's a lot of us, we're all like, okay, well, we'll give you a month, kinda. And now we're kind of like, you know what? Fuck you. It didn't work out the way you think, and you're not even. And the problem with government is, when did they ever admit they're wrong? They never do. So they made a knee-jerk decision on misinformation from China and being scared in the beginning, and we all said, okay, go ahead. It's a wealthy country. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
And then at the end of and then they started giving out all this money, which they don't have. They're just printing money, and they started shutting down the country. And really, what it did is it hurt the lower half of people. You know, it hurt hairdressers and restaurant people and small businesses that do, that aren't in like the defense industry. So the answer is, it really hurt the country. The Republican states were all turning back on. In Arizona, I think, is about 85% turned on. I think by the end of next week, we'll be at 100%. And you've got Texas, they've turned on. Big state, big economy. And then you've got California turned off. And the people there are freaking out, and the government's holding them down. So there's going to be a political battle that goes on there. But the country's opening up very quickly. And anytime you let the government, I'm sure your government, I don't agree with your style of government. That's okay. Anytime you let the government in charge of anything, they fuck it up. So that's how we feel here. That's why we believe in George Washington's phrase, and John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, who said we believe in a strong and small, constrained federal government. So there you are.
Okay. Well, basically in Russia, well, particularly in Moscow, the same. It's already, I think, 2 months. The business is really shut down. We are not allowed actually to go to the offices, and actually small, medium-sized business really suffers a lot. And I want to actually know if how the business side, not the knife industry so far, I will come to the knife questions as well, but like local businesses in Arizona state, are they also suffering due to this COVID? And what are the government, what they are doing in order to support the local business?
Okay, nobody is suffering because of COVID. Nobody. We are all suffering because the government shut most industries down. Now, in Arizona, there are exceptions for critical industry to stay open. And somebody in the government decided that anybody who makes things from raw steel is considered vital industry. And I think it's because they didn't want the steel supply chain to be damaged. So we were able to stay open. We were accepted by our governor, but I would have stayed open no matter what. I would have never closed because they can fuck right off. They're not the boss of me. What they've done is to individuals that make a certain amount of income below a certain level, they've just given them some money. And I think they're going to do it again. And
I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. Now video is on.
And I think they're going to do it again, but I don't agree with it. I know this sounds weird, but I think it's better for people to not have the money from the government, so they'll put the pressure back on the government to get the fuck out of the way and let us do what we do. And, look, we all take chances every day. We get in a car and drive. Driving's dangerous. People take chances all the time. We take chances walking down the street. You take a chance riding a bicycle. You go on a camping trip, it can be dangerous, right? We go skiing. Skiing's dangerous. We go skydiving. People take calculated risks all the time. And we take a calculated risk every year during influenza season. And for some reason, there's supposed to be no risk over a new disease. There's no risk. That's irrational. And what it is, it's a way to try and control us. And so the answer is the more fake money they print and give to everybody, the more it lets them off the hook for being totalitarian and shutting us down. You know what I mean? Let them off the hook.
Yeah.
I say, don't go writing any money to pay people so that you can make dumb decisions. Like, hey, I'm going to fucking burn your house down, but don't worry, I'm going to give you some money. Like, no, I don't want my stuff burned down. So I think it's bad. I think, so they are giving some money, and you know what? It's not going to help. The government helps small businesses. They had two things. They figure, hey, we're going to shut down for a month or two, so we want to get payroll to all the businesses that are affected by the shutdown. We want to help them. So we were able to apply to the government, and they're providing like 2 months worth of payroll to our businesses. So I applied and I got money. And what was interesting is, all right, so in the economy, there's different sectors in manufacturing, right? Food was hurt right away. The more temporary things are, the more immediate things are, the more immediately they were hurt. For instance, restaurant, food today, eat right now, shut them down, total collapse of the business. Clothing stores, sort of hurt them. And then as you get further back in the durable hard goods sector, we're back in the durable hard goods, old-fashioned steel manufacturing. It didn't hurt us because our business orders are kind of longer-term purchasing, longer-term buying, annual collective purchasing, very, very different. It's not like I have people like show up down to the store today and go, oh, hey, I want to buy a $700 pocket knife. So we weren't, it didn't affect us as much. The further back you are towards making airplanes, I think the less it affected you. And then as you get away from airplanes and ships and military tanks, the further you get away from that, the more it affected you. We're closer back to that than we are to food.
Okay, but I think airplane industry is also affected due to these shutdowns worldwide. But yeah, so I think let's now.
The airplane industry, the retail part of it is hurt, but they're going to figure the retail thing out. They're going to make a bunch of money on cheap gas, but the airplane orders are going to continue because they know
long-term orders. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now I think for it was a small talking about the COVID-19 and some politics a little, but now let's move to the knives. So now let's talk about MKT and knife industry. And just as a starting point, what is MKT in numbers? I don't know how many knives are annually produced, if you can disclose, how many active knife models currently MKT has, number of employees, key markets, like a very short introduction. What is MKT in Medford Knife Tool company in key figures?
We make about 1,000 knives a month. We have 26 folding models and about 10 fixed blade models. I try to introduce 4 to 6 new models a year, and I generally retire. I'll try to retire a similar amount unless the sales can justify keeping a model. We have 30 employees. We've got 16,000 square foot manufacturing shop. We currently grind everything by hand, but it won't always be that way. I have bought some grinders, and I've bought some bigger milling equipment. I've got 6 people who are hand grinders, 3 people who do assembly, 4 people who do machining, 5 people who do machining, 8 people in sales and management, 1 person in shipping and receiving, production manager, 3 people in assembly, and then I've got 2 quality control people. And there's more, but that's about the breakdown. And our segment, our market segment, obviously. So it's interesting. I got known for making the Praetorian tie, big heavy duty knife. And I remember Russians, whenever I meet Russians, they go, "Love your knife, big knife, big like Russia, big, any color long as black, and big like Russia." So I remember initially when I popped on the scene, Russian guys really liked my knives. But I got known for making that knife. So what happens is, it was like my 6th knife I designed, and I was tired of people complaining about the price. So I said, I'm going to make the fuck you knife. So when someone says, how much are your knives? And I say, well, it's this much. And they go, well, how's it so much? And I hand them the knife like, fuck you. I actually have it sitting over here on my window, the very first one I made by hand. So you make a knife like that, and then all of a sudden, I mean, I had 3,000 orders. 3,000 orders. I was making 50 knives a month all by myself, and I had 3,000 orders. What do you do? So I put together a business plan and cash flow projection, and I didn't think about anything else. I was like, how can I afford to make these knives? How can I figure out a way? So that's what I did. I built a plan around having that, and I didn't know. I said, well, that's the end. That's the only time that'll ever happen. Well, we're going to make some money, and then this will end, and we'll go back to normal life. And then it just didn't end.
Great.
So what happened is I got known for making that model because I built a company around supporting that model. But I had already moved on to lots of other models. It's just that's what I got known for. You know, like the Chicago Bulls. They had Michael Jordan. There were a bunch of other good players on that team. Scottie Pippen was one of them. But Michael Jordan's the one that everybody remembers, right?
Yes,
that's my marquee. That's my Michael Jordan knife. But as that knife has matured in the market, I've been able to, and as I grew my, so I'm here like this as a company. I get orders here, and I built a company for here. And now the delta, this difference in the middle is where I've made all my new stuff, and it's where my company makes the most money now.
Okay. And is your company involved only in knife production?
I used to do breaching tools and other things. I do some special projects that are not knives, but mostly knives.
Okay. Okay. And I think it's also very interesting for all knife enthusiasts, especially who do not know your brand very well or business. If we break down the business by key business processes, like knife business, what is done in-house at Medford Company and what is outsourced?
Okay. So we do all of our blanking, which means we cut out all of the parts to make our knives here. So out of the titanium handles and the blade steel, we cut everything out. We grind, precision grind all of those blanks, whether it's double disc or surface grind. We do all of the precision CNC milling of all of the parts. We do all of the grinding of the blades to put the bevel on the blade. Now that it's made flat and it's had the precision machining done to it, we bevel it. We heat treat here in-house. We do the post-process grinding, finish grinding, sharpening, assembly, electro-oxidization, heat treat oxidization. We do all of our polishing. And we used to make all of our own screws. The only thing we don't do is PVD. So as of this date right now, my screws are sourced around the United States and with some pure ally countries, not China ever. So I will have screws made. Screws are sourced pretty globally. So the only thing I do is I try to have them made from allied countries of the United States. That's it.
Okay.
So functioning democracies that are good neighbors, that's who I'm doing business with. I'll do business with anybody, but I don't want to get caught. So, all right, so for instance, what if I wanted to have screws made in Ukraine or Russia or China, and then some politics stops them from flowing? Yeah. I would be completely screwed. So to speak. So
you want to save your supply chain, basically.
Yeah. So I'm very the Western democracies is who I do business with because no one's blockaded their products in 100 years.
Okay.
70 years.
And initially, when you started, so you said that initially you were doing 50 knives per month. And then you made a business plan and created the plant, basically. So was everything initially intended to do in-house like you are doing, or you start step by step?
Well, I initially used the gay California model where you draw pictures and then you have everybody else make it. And that always sounds good on paper, but it doesn't work if you want to have a premier product. If you want to have a premier product, you have to control it, because cost, expedience, and delivery times dictate pricing. And if you get into an import model where you're having everybody else do the work, nobody will ever do it as well as you, because there's not as much accountability. It's very challenging. So can you outsource the parts and get them done at a world-class level? I don't know. Maybe. There may be one or two companies who can do it. Is it what I wanted to do? No. And it didn't give me the flexibility, because when you buy it from another place, you now have to do all these minimum order quantities, and it kind of traps you. And I wanted to be really flexible and fluid in my business. So I started out thinking I was going to have all this stuff outsourced. I'll have the handles made at this shop across town. So I used a friend of mine's shop. He let me do some grinding there. I did all my own heat treating. I tried to outsource the heat treating. It wasn't consistent. I tried outsourcing, and what I found was it's not consistent enough for me to put my name on it. That's all. Okay. So I tried it.
Yeah.
Now you can outsource to China, and you can outsource to other places. And the only reason you can outsource it to China is because the factory that's going to make it for you in China, they're making it all under one roof, or on the same street. They're not outsourcing it from all over. They're all knife makers making the knife. So their quality has gone up in China as they've built their knife making industry, right? But here in the United States, if you want to make a good knife, you got to make it in your building. Right?
I understand. Yeah. Maybe I will go back to. Oh,
wait a minute. So let me answer your question.
Okay.
So the answer is, I thought I was going to outsource big parts of it, and every time I ran into a problem, I just insourced inside. I bought the machine, and next thing you know, I was doing it all.
Okay, but it increases your fixed cost, so it means that you need to have always the volume. So yes, so you are less flexible in that case.
No, it didn't. I had to buy some machines, but spending a couple $100,000 on machines to give a company total flexibility was cheap money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Initially I did everything with old equipment, used machines, and now everything's brand new and perfect. And
Okay. Also, you said that your industry and especially your company was affected not as much. But what do you think in the long run, or how currently, it's already, I don't know, almost 2 months that there is a quarantine almost worldwide. So are you still, do you feel that revenue is now, I don't know, going down, or what do you expect, let's say, in next year?
Next year's going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
Next year will be huge. And this year, we were projecting probably 45% growth this year. I think now I have to downgrade my growth, but I mean, I'll still have, just about any company in America, if they experience the growth that we're going to experience, they would be very happy. But I built a company and I planned money for a different growth. So it'll be a big adjustment this year, but it's still growth. So I've got no complaints. I'm very lucky, very blessed. When everyone else closed down, I started marketing, and I started drawing new knives, and we stayed open and kept making new things. So I have new knives coming. I did not shut the company down. I kept working.
Okay, maybe you can tell us what are the new knife models for 2020? If you do not have them on the table, then I will basically just put in the video. We can show it the pictures, but maybe you can tell us the names of the new model.
Yeah, sure. Hey, give me 1 second. I'll have one of them brought in too. Hold on. So I got a couple knives. I'm finishing up this project right now. Let's see. That's a new knife. Let me see.
Ah.
So this is a slip joint.
Slip joints are becoming trendy this year.
Yeah. And I really am having fun carrying it. I really like it. Super cool little knife. I don't know if you can see it pretty well.
Yes, yes. What's the name for this slip joint?
I don't know.
Okay. So this is the model of 2020 or 2021?
That's a 2020.
Okay.
And then I've got this. This is a Praetorian Slim flipper.
Ah.
So this is the length of my Praetorian Genesis. It's the thickness of my Slim Midi. It's the size of my Swift Automatic, except it's a flipper.
Great.
Kind of. And then if you want to see it in relationship to a Praetorian, I'll show you. Give me 1 sec. I've got a Praetorian tie sitting right here. So this is a Praetorian tie, obviously. And this is the...
Oh, big difference.
Okay.
In size, yeah.
Yeah, and then if you look at them from the top, you can see totally different thickness, right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You're very welcome. Let me put this Praetorian away, and then I'll show you another knife. I'm just finishing up right now. This is called the Nosferatu, which was a German vampire movie from the 1920s. This is the knife. This is the knife right here. It's a coffin shape.
Yes.
It's got a coffin shaped clip. It's got a safety on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a full auto dagger. Dagger's got a unique grind. It's got an asymmetrical grind. Anyways, I think it's a super cool knife, and it's like all Medfords. It's got no play, and it's fucking yummy. But like, I drive my team crazy with this stuff because I go, yeah. They go, autos all have play. I go, no, I don't want any play. I want it perfect. And they're like, ah. So I drive them a little.
So no blade play at all.
No play. No play. So just an absolutely lovely, sick. It's a sick knife. I really like it.
Thank you very much for showing the new knife models. I have another question to you. What are the key competitive advantages of Medford Knife and Tool Company?
Okay, look, you're from the outside. What do you think the key competitive advantages are? And then I'll tell you what I think. You show me yours, and then I'll show you mine. You tell me what you think our advantages are. I'd love to hear this.
Well, basically, first of all, it's 100% or 99.9% made in USA. That's one. Second is that you control everything from the design to the final assembly. That's two. Third is actually the brand that you've built it. The strength of the brand is also a very important key competitive advantage because Medford is known for a very reliable and heavy duty knife that they can actually do everything. They are like tanks. and I would say the warranty that you give. And of course, the unique, that you always stay with your unique design that can be always read by, that can be always notified. So basically, even you showed me a Nosferatu, okay, if I didn't know that it was shown by you or it was a Medford knife, basically I would say that it's very close, so you can see the one signature. So that's basically what I would say.
Okay, so here's what I would say our competitive advantages are. The number one thing is, and so it ain't bragging if you can do it. So I'll tell you, the number one thing the company has going for it right now is me. Now, I have a wonderful team. They're fantastic. I could not do it without them. But I hang my, you see me, there's no company owner on the planet hanging themselves out like I do. I'm like, here's how I play. Here's what I think. I show you my designs. I draw my pictures. I show them to the public. I'm super open. So I think we've got the two things. Because I want to be accessible, my company is accessible. Because I'm obsessed with my customer, my company is obsessed with my customer. I go to bad companies all the time, and it drives me crazy. And you can always tell when the owner is arrogant and self-absorbed, because the employees are too. You know, I'm a little arrogant because you have to be to do this, and I get attacked all the time. So I got a little bit arrogant. I get it. And I work on all the time trying to be humble. But my company's not arrogant because I'm not arrogant. I mean, I was in this morning and I'll work hard all day and everybody will look over and see the boss working. So leadership by example. So the biggest thing we have going for my company is that I was fixated on building a brand and not building me. I never wanted to be a famous knife maker. I don't care about being a famous knife maker. I always wanted to make a really cool, I wanted to make cool stuff. And then that was the most important thing to me. And then what I wanted to do is attach a brand to it so that, and I decided this right away. And the only reason was I wanted people to know if I made awesome stuff and it had my brand on it, there was a good chance it was awesome. That's all I was trying to do. So what are our competitive advantages? The competitive advantage is that we're vertically integrated. Design to shipping and packaging is all under one roof. So we can have a coherent, clear message. We're not stuck fixing anyone else's problems. My quality is all on me. So I get to adjust quality constantly every day. The first hour of my day is usually about quality with the guys on the floor. So maybe I got in at the right time of social media. I was able to get in as a knife maker. You know, I wasn't the first guy by any stretch. There were plenty of people, but I think I got in early enough. I was able to leverage social media. A lot of guys can't leverage social media though, because they're not authentic.
Yeah.
Like this is me. I mean, you've met me in person.
Yes.
Right? At the SHOT Show in Las Vegas.
Yes. No,
it
was Blade Show in Atlanta.
Was it Blade Show? Oh,
yeah, it was Blade Show. Yeah.
But I'm exactly the same way in person, right? Like, there's no change. So for me, I've got a very, I'm a kind of gregarious personality. And, what happened, my family spent money, my grandparents, I got to travel around the world. And, I learned to paint in Paris. I learned to draw and sitting in museums, and I've just been all over the world around art and design. And then I built a lot of airplanes, and I've been around aviation, and all of those things come together when you see what I try to design knife-wise. I try to bring, a couple. I just didn't start doodling yesterday. I've been thinking about, I think of when I'm thinking of building a knife, I have Leonardo da Vinci in my head. I have the divine proportions you see at the Parthenon, at the Acropolis in Athens. All of those things are leaning on me. I think of the Elgin marbles. You know, I think about gold leaf palaces in Russia. I think about, you know, walking through the gardens and seeing the seasonal design changes of the gardens at Versailles. Those all lean on me. I think about the National Museum of Germany. I think about the armories and castles that I've been in, and I've looked at all the weapons and all of the things in a castle. And then I go to the National Museum in Nuremberg, and I see all the knights and all of the Teutonic swords. All of those things inform me. So I'm a unique human alignment of experiences and ideas. And I decided I always wanted a job designing cool things, but nobody would hire me to do it because, like, who the fuck are you? You're some martial arts guy who flies airplanes. So I had to build a company around my job that I wanted. I wanted to just design really fun things. So I built a company around that. That's what I did.
Thank you. Great answer. Great answer. Thank you very much. I think this is what is actually, you definitely can give a very good answer as well. What do you think? What are the key knife trends? Because as we see, last decade, last 10 years, knife industry actually really has a growth. Yes, a knife industry is growing in United States. It is growing in Russia. It's growing also in Europe. So knife industry is actually, I think, has a new era. So what do you think? What are the key trends that you already see, or they are just now rising up in the knife industry?
Well, you know, there's fads from big into little. As long as there's dudes wearing big skull rings and heavy necklaces and that want to drive a Humvee or a G-Wagon, as long as there's guys like that, they're going to be big, chunky knives. Here's what I see. And I think it all relates back to our culture. Ever since World War II, and ever since women have had the right to vote, preceding World War II, our cultures have become more feminine. And they're becoming more feminine because they have a seat at the table, and because guys want to find a way to still be married, or, you know, go on a date or have a girl like them. So guys have gotten a little softer, you know, maybe not in Russia, but maybe a little bit in Russia, but a lot in Europe, and a little bit across the United States. I think the effeminization, you know, 50 years ago, a lot of Americans worked on a farm or a ranch. Not so much now. So we had, I would call, a working knife culture. And that has been on decline. And now I think what we have is a masculine culture. So a masculine knife culture, a jewelry knife culture. And I don't necessarily think it's any worse. It's just different.
Yeah.
So when the knife culture was a response, there was a culture of knives because guys were all using them every day. Now there's a culture of knives because in an emasculated world where being masculine and being a man and drinking some vodka and going to see some strippers at a club, that's not as accepted as it used to be. In a world where that's, you know, what do you do? Well, you know, you almost have to, as men, like, I'm barely domesticated. To become domesticated for a man, I don't think it's good for us. But we do it, right? And we struggle with it. We struggle with fidelity to our women. We struggle with not wanting to punch somebody in the fucking face that, you know, who's out of line. We struggle with doing the same thing for years and years and years. We struggle, you know, when your son does something dumb, you want to spank his ass, and now you can't. We struggle with all those things, even if, you know, we struggle with our rougher masculine self to our more. And so what I think is, as our culture has become as humans, more effeminized, and women have more of a voice, and guys have become more refined. A knife is a primal talisman of masculinity. You can have it in your pocket, and let's say your wife's a crazy, raving, lunatic, liberal feminist. You can quietly sit around and sip on your wine, nod your head, and give her a kiss, and you're still maybe going to get some sex tonight. You have your knife in your pocket. Maybe you put your hand down on your pocket. You feel your knife in your pocket. And you sit there, you're thinking to yourself, say, you know, I like her. She's sexy. I don't know about all this feminist crap, but I love my wife, you know. Maybe I love my girl, whatever. I think the knife has found a place. It's a talisman. It's like an anchor to our past. So I think there's a lot of young guys who don't need knives. They don't know how to change a tire on a car. They're basically incompetent as men, and they like knives. Mm-hmm. They don't know why. You know why they like knives? They like knives for the same reason they like a guy like me. They go, that guy's kind of a lunatic. He might punch you in the mouth and knock your tooth out. He will definitely change a tire. He knows how to fix an engine, and his house is probably safe during the apocalypse. I kind of, even if they don't like me, they're like, that guy, if the zombie apocalypse happened, I could go to that guy's house. There's a little hint of that is just in a pocket knife. It's a little, in the zombie apocalypse, I got my knife. It's a little talisman. I don't know if that, so I think there's as young men have become more and more emasculated, and they're struggling to find masculine things that they won't get in trouble for. I think a pocket knife is an easy, tangible, immediate, and they're fucking cool. I mean, knives are cool. I mean, guns are cool, but you get in trouble with guns everywhere. But knives, you don't get in trouble that much. There's not too many rules about them. They're cool. So I think they check off multiple boxes. You know what I mean?
Okay, so the key trend, as you see, is basically due to the feminization, the knife becomes, I would say, a symbol of a knight. Yes, so it's like
Excalibur.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, also very interesting answer. Thank you, Greg, very much for being with me, for sharing your thoughts, and that you were frankly answering all the questions. I have a final question to you. What is in your pocket? What is your EDC carry knife?
Oh, well, I was carrying 2 knives today. I started today carrying 3 knives. I was carrying the 3 new knives. My Nosferatu. I was carrying this on the outside, and I was carrying this in the bottom of my pocket. So I was carrying all 3 of my new ones. I'm carrying a slip joint just to see how I like it, and I love it. And I was carrying this little flipper just to see if, and I've used it 100 times in the last week. So I carry 2 knives, and I you know what? When I started the knife company, I did not carry knives. I'm going to tell you. My first knife was an old timer. I was a little kid. I was 6. My grandfather got me an old timer. I climb up in a tree. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was a case. I climb up in this mulberry tree. This big kid, teenager from the neighborhood. He was a scary kid, and he ended up going to prison as we got a little older. But he scared me up in the tree and wouldn't let me out of the tree. And I was up in the tree, and I was getting really scared. And I pulled my pocket knife out, and I pulled out the long blade. I held it by the blade, and I threw it at him. And it stuck right into the top of his shoe. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't do it a second time if I tried all day. It was the perfect knife throw ever. Stuck right in the top of his shoe. Right down in, and it went right between his big toe.
Wow.
Didn't cut him. But he went, told the mom, and the mom went to, and my mom says, get your ass home. So I go down the street. I'm walking in the house. My mom says, give me the pocket knife. And I take the pocket knife, and I remember she took a framing hammer, laid the pocket knife in the driveway, and smashed it. I had the knife one day. My grandfather came out again, a year later, and he goes, what happened to your knife? I said, Mom broke it. He says, girls. And he goes, I'll get you another. And he got me an old timer. So I carried the old timer for years. So that's 2 knives. I got a buck 110 when I was a junior high. So 13 years old, I got a buck 110. My next knife, K-bar, Marine Corps. My next knife, a SOG. That's it. My whole life. The one knife got broken. One knife got lost. One knife I gave to a friend. My K-bar, I was on deployment in the Middle East when my grandfather died, and I mailed it. They put it in his coffin. So my K-bar is in the coffin with my grandfather. And I got into business because I wanted to be the president of K-bar Knives.
Wow, very interesting story. Well, thank you very much. You actually shared with us a very valuable information, and I think this information will be very interesting for the whole knife community. And I want to wish you all the best, to you, to your family, to your company, and yes, be safe.
Spasiba. Same to you.
Great. Thank you.